So we're going to have come up next, speaking and doing a song. Are we ready? Okay, so we'll have Isabel come up and speak, and then we're going to figure out the song portion of this.
Hello, everyone. My name is Isabel. They have pronouns. Growing up in this city, talking a little bit about past experience, being out in school, and I was also a person that did not come out, whether they're kids or not, and just showing them out there. Well, I think you all absolutely deserve one of those things when it comes to yourself and having that representation. So much of masculinity is really going down into a more narrow path of stoicism as a virtue. And I think that in a safe space, it's met with respect, understanding, and care. And being vulnerable in an unsafe space, you immediately see people are actually interested in being there for you, and being much more interested in you not causing them to do more work and cause a scene. And I love the fact that I think we're going towards a society where you can actually be yourself.
Are you media?
Yes. Okay, so please first of all introduce yourself, then
Yeah, my name's Acer Bonaparte, and I'm the media liaison for Queer Youth Defense. We're just out here today in response to the counter-protest that happened earlier, claiming that queer education is indoctrination, that sexuality is inherently perverse or sexual. We just wanted to show that dangerous ideas like that are unfounded and won't go unchallenged in Kitchener-Waterloo. Earlier there was the counter-protest, but they've kind of cleared out, so we've just been using this as an opportunity to connect with community, display some speeches, art, singing. It's just been a lovely day.
What do you say about the 1 million march? Do you think it is you approach are they against but they say they are not against the LGBTQ or any other community. Like they just want the kids should not talk about gender ideology. So what's your take on that?
Yeah, I definitely believe it's coming from a good place. They want to know what's going on with their kids. They want to be able to understand, and it's definitely not coming from a place rooted in hate for a lot of them. But it comes down to that there are very many instances where the school is only a safe place for kids, and it's not about necessarily indoctrinating or teaching kids to be something, just teaching kids that it's okay to be that way if they are that way. So I definitely understand that they're coming from a place of wanting what's best for their kids and wanting them to understand. But there needs to be a middle ground between wanting to understand and wanting a view into their kids' lives and blanket stopping kids from learning about issues surrounding queer rights.
And do you think this gender ideology should be taught to kids?
I believe kids should be able to learn, that there are myriad ways of being, that gender identity can come in many shapes and sizes, and I think that's basically what pretty much all of us would attest to, that kids don't need to be told what they are, they just need to be told that no matter what they may be, that's okay. So I think that's my main point.
And there are some concerns that it means kids as young age, like like 16 years old, they should not be allowed to change their gender. And if they do over 18, under 18, so their parents should be informed. So what do you
Parents, if a child is under 18, parents do have to have consent towards any hormones and stuff like that. I believe if you're over 16 it is, but when you're 16 and under, all gender-affirming care is a name change, pronoun change, and sometimes puberty blockers to wait until they are 16, and when they're more able to understand not the ramifications, but the effects of hormones, and can give that informed consent. So, yeah, I think there's some misinformation that flies around about that, but until 16, it is extraordinarily rare for any hormones to be done, and no surgeries are done before the age of 16 without parent, and none are done without parents' consent.
And how do you see the politicians support? Like some parties do support LGBTQ community or such protests, but some are with like 1 million march. Like you said they are anti-LGBTQ protests, but they said they are not. So how do you see the politician role or elected official role on such demonstrations?
I think the politician's role is to exist as a mouthpiece for the people. So just as there's a myriad arrangement of opinions, there can be a myriad arrangement of politicians. But at the same time, hate speech and hateful beliefs, they shouldn't necessarily be amplified. So while I respect their right to free speech and their right to engage in the political process, I think that sometimes they need to cool it, but it's up to the voter and the electorate to decide.
And right now, we see there are some concerns, some provinces may ban a teaching of a gender ideology. So what's your take on that?
My takeaway is just that hate has no space. There is ways to educate without ideology, without putting your own spin on things, and I believe that is this system that we're all trying to build.
So do you think gender ideology should be taught to underage kids?
Yeah.
It should. And what
They should be taught that being transgender exists. It is a valid way of being. That if they feel like that they can maybe try out a new name, maybe try out new pronouns, and along the way, if it gets to the point where they feel like they want to try hormones once they're of age and once they're 16 plus or whatever age their doctor says, that's no business of anybody but themselves, their doctor, and if they're in a supportive place, their parents.
and what's your message to Canada?
My message? Don't be a dick. That is my message.
Yourself.
Introduce yourself.
Okay.
Then please talk about this
Okay.
protest and what happened.
Okay. My name is Jim Parrott. I have been a queer and trans activist for the last half century, the last 50 years. I was invited to speak at this on behalf of queer youth and trans youth. So I gave a speech here. I was expecting more people. It turns out that the people who originally organized the anti-trans part did not stay long, and we think they left around 11, but I didn't arrive until nearly 1 o'clock. So when I was here, it was mostly queer and trans people. So I gave a speech talking about my history in town and also my concern for trans people, especially trans youth, because they're the most vulnerable members of the queer and trans communities, and I feel like they're my grandchildren. They're two generations younger than me, so it was a good experience. We did have something where a man started yelling partway through it, so I had to bring my microphone closer to my face. But yeah, so it was a good experience for me. I had a lot of friends here, and that was very nice. It was apparently very different last year. I wasn't here last year. I was not able to attend. So that's pretty much what I've got to say.
did they leave by themselves or they were forced to get out? Like those like 1 million marks of children.
Well, the thing is, when we got here, they were all gone. They were all gone. So I never actually got to see any of them. When I arrived, it was all the people who were pro-queer and pro-trans. So no, I didn't actually see the 1 million people. For some reason, they left around 11 o'clock.
But those like protesters believe they are protesting for their children. You know, like they are not against the LGBT. So where do you stand? Where do you stand with their date? Like they say they are not anti-LGBTQ or they are not against any vulnerable community.
I find that hard to believe, actually. Um, I find that hard to believe because for the last 12 years I have been working with refugees from other countries. These are people who are fleeing oppressive regimes, and they're being persecuted because they are trans and or queer. And what happens is they tell me the same stories over and over again of being beaten, raped, and tortured. And a significant number of them are from Muslim majority countries. So personally, I find it hard to believe that their only concern is trans youth.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau always talks about like human rights, especially LGBTQ community life. But
Yeah.
on the world stage, we don't see such thing. You know, like there are many countries like Saudi Arabia. They have a great relationship. You know, like
Yes.
and other countries like Pakistan and other Gulf
Yeah.
region, and there are some African countries. So
Exactly.
we keep sending aid to their including China, you know, like but that is not a Muslim region, but I'm talking about the Muslim region particularly, you know, like Pakistan,
Yes.
Afghanistan,
Yes.
or Iran, and other Gulf region, especially Saudi Arabia, but we don't see any action from top level leadership.
I understand, I think, what you're saying, and that's the nature of politics. That politicians will say and do some things in the country, but will also maintain relations with countries that do things that we're not always happy with. I don't know. I'm not a politician, but it's just the way the world is, unfortunately.
but but some Muslims like believe and Christian also believe, Jewish also believe. It mean being LGBTQ, lesbian, gay, or bisexual, it is probated in their religion beliefs. You know.
I
So
understand. Yeah.
what do you take from them? Like when they will tell you like that? So what do
Um,
you understand?
what I first of all take is that I would never travel to a country like that because my life would be in danger. I walk hand in hand with my husband, who's not here right now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would just not be that. I'm very much concerned about religious extremism, and there's an awful lot of it in many countries. So, my husband and I, who's not with me right now, he's at home. We travel. We've traveled to Western Europe. We wouldn't go very many other places. We would not go to any place in Africa or the Middle East or mostly South America, except maybe one country, Uruguay. And in Asia, Thailand would be safe. I can't sit on a plane that long. So yeah, so I have trouble with really strong religious extremism, and so that's my response.
Okay, and what's your message to a Canadian elected officials and to Canadian citizens?
Let me think what I can say. I can say, please do all you can, especially to protect the youth.
Before we begin, could you please tell me about yourself?
My name is Lynn McGuinness. Among a great many other things, I identify as bisexual and transgender. This is something that I was starting to clue into when I was about 4 years old, which kind of begs the question for people who are saying, hey, don't push this stuff on kids. I would have been grateful if when I was in grade school, these conversations were happening. It would have been, I felt isolated. I felt like I was the only one. I didn't understand what was going on. If there had been a conversation going on in schools, nobody would be indoctrinating me in anything. They'd be telling me information that I needed in order to have a better life. I had a miserable childhood, and part of it has to do with the mentality that the people who didn't have the chutzpah to stay here, who came and then left, want to take us back to, where their insecurities, their belief systems, their ignorance is hurting their own children. Now, the concern is, what we hear is that this is forcing stuff on kids who aren't ready for it. Children become sexually aware very early in life, and anybody who has a measure of education will know that it's not something that doesn't happen until puberty. It happens earlier than that. Just the whole notion that people aren't ready, and that also we have no issue with children being given lots of information about being heterosexual, about being gender normative, and all of those conventions are unquestioned. Yes, that's the way you are. That's the way we are. That information, it seems, is thought of as being perfectly acceptable to be told little children. But the idea that there's a diversity in that, there's a spectrum, and there are people who are outside of that spectrum, this is seen as dangerous and confusing and threatening. Who it's threatening to is the parents, not the children. The children will accept, little children will certainly listen to what an adult has to say. And for most of them, it's just information. But what about for the ones it's in fact life-saving for, who A, don't have the words, or B, if they have the words, kids can pick up on this. Kids can pick up if there is something said at home and the parents get all intense about it and say, oh, that can't be right. They can tell that. And so then if they start having feelings and ideas which they know their parents aren't going to like, they're not going to tell them. But if they have somewhere safe that they can at least explore and find out more and get some information, then they need that. I needed that, and I didn't get it. And so I had 25, 30 years of misery because of other people's insecurities and ignorance and fear. And I don't want any other child to go through that. So I was also, when this march happened, or when this event happened, I was presuming they were going to be here as well, and I was going to be here to support queer and trans youth and adults, but youth especially. And then it appears, I don't know, I wasn't here when it happened, but they had a small turnout. And by the way, one reason they had a small turnout, I think, is because the mayor of Kitchener and the city council came out very strongly, and so did the mayor of Waterloo, same message, that A, they support people's right to protest, but B, the city of Kitchener and the city of Waterloo do not support their message. And in fact is very supportive of the LGBTQ community and wanting to protect vulnerable people. And my theory is that took the wind out of their sails, and a lot of people decided not to come. I don't want to silence anyone. What I would prefer is that these people who have such issues, that we find a way where we can sit down at a situation like this and have a conversation, have a dialogue. But getting up and like they did last year and yelling all these slogans and making all these slurs and baseless assertions which have no basis in fact, that's not a conversation.
But what are you like expecting to protest today, or you just came in because like they were protesting 1 million march?
I was, yes. Well, I was expecting. I wasn't able to go last year, and it was a big event last year. I wanted to be here this year. I knew my friend here, Jim, was going to be giving a speech, and I wanted to definitely be here for that. And if somebody had said, you know what, can I ask you a question? I would have welcomed that. I would have welcomed somebody sincerely, respectfully, courteously saying, I don't understand you. I don't understand what this is about. Why are you like you are? Why are these people? And we could have talked, and I would have been fine with that. But when people are up doing this, I'm sorry, that's not a conversation. There's no respect. There's no civility. There's nothing. And so I was all set to chat. I was all set to do whatever was needed. I mean, there was no physical. At least here, there was no physical confrontations. There was nothing violent. At Jim's speech, there actually was somebody who very loudly heckled, and had to. And what happened when that happened? All sorts of people converged around this person, and kept him from, because he was coming up towards the stage. They kept him off the stage. The marshals and then the City Hall security moved him away. No confrontation, nothing physical happened, but they protected Jim because he was up speaking. Free speech, he was up speaking. And here's this guy who's bellowing into the middle of his speech. That's not free speech. Hello, you, go away. And so anyway, I was here expecting that it might have been a more of a confrontational setting. It turned out it was not, and I'm very happy that we had a pleasant time and an affirming time together. But in one sense, it's unfortunate because I never had that conversation with someone who I maybe will never meet and never see otherwise. But I would have welcomed that. If somebody was sincere and respectful and wanted to, I've done that many times. I've been in many public forums where I've done just that. I've been in, I don't know if you ever heard of the Human Library. I've been a book in the Human Library at several times at Conestoga College and elsewhere. And people sit down and say, I don't understand. What the heck? I don't understand. And we talk. And I'm glad to do that. And that is as far as I'm concerned, that's the only way really, is when we talk to our neighbors, when we talk to people, our coworkers, when we talk to friends, family. That's the only way is to talk from our own personal experience and from our own observation of life and be in a tone where we listen to each other. That's the only way. This is not the way. I mean, this turned out to be a very fun event. It may as well have been a party, but that's not how we thought it was going to be. And I'm only guessing as to why they didn't turn up this year. But it's very strange, actually, that they were here in such numbers last year, and then this year they just evaporated. And I think that's interesting.
And what you were message Canadians, how they should support LGBTQ community support?
Well, I think I'd like to think that there's a huge shift. I mean, I'm a senior. It's been a huge shift during my life. And so there is, I would say, a broad consensus on acceptance and welcoming diversity on all sorts of fronts, including sexual and gender diversity. There's a small number who are pushing back. I do not think they're the majority. I think that they are a relatively small number. As usual, the majority don't speak up usually, and so what we hear from are the squeaky wheels. And as the mayor said, they're welcome to, in the appropriate way, say their piece. But what would be nice is if we could find a way of talking to each other.
And who would you vote in the next general election?
I'm like Jim. I am very much a strategic voter. I'm very happy. I live in Waterloo. We have a NDP MPP, so for provincial parliament, and we have a Liberal, Bardes Chagger, for federal. I'm just fine with that. If I'm telling you, if there was an election and it looks like the Conservatives were going to win in our riding and the Martians were running, I'd vote Martian. I'll vote for any ABC. ABC. The Conservatives have not been my friends. They have never been our friends. They never will be. And certainly now they have taken a nosedive from when I was young, and they were progressive conservatives. There was once upon a time they were something called progressive conservative. Long gone. Conservatives are now very much pandering to people's fear and their ignorance, and it's just appalling, the things that they're now getting away with saying that you wouldn't dream of people saying in public before, and now they're saying it. And it's just unfortunate degradation of the public discourse. Social media has a role in that. A lot of people who in the old days wouldn't have had a public voice because no editor would let them say what they wanted to say. Now they can do it no problem. They can just set up their own camera and they can say what they like. So there's been a lot of changes, and not all of them are good.
Okay, thank you so much.